So do we have a drug problem? The thing is, when I was trying to prepare for this talk, I was actually gleaning through Google to see what type of information we have locally, okay? I did find a lot that's occurring in the nation and maybe other jurisdictions. But it was very difficult to gather data, statistics, to define this drug problem. So hopefully, and the thing is with my next slides, I'm not going to be presenting any answers. However, it would just I'm just going to try to stimulate thought in preparation for our next presenters, okay? So the thing is, when I asked that question, do we have a drug problem? It was a resounding yes. I feel like everybody in this room has been affected in one way or another with drugs, be it anecdotally. You know, we see it. You know, it could be from our parishioners. It could be from a family member, a neighbor, somebody we work with, right? So the thing is that with drugs, we can see that it creates trauma. You know, it could be through neglect and abuse, or even from seeing displaced children. Do you see that, DYS? All right? So you see that drug problem, that drugs creates this problem, right? What is the impact to the community, or what are the economic impacts, right? Does anybody want to volunteer to name one? Let me start. One of the things when I first started in drug court, about 6 years ago, until now, is it 100 out of 100? I don't know. Has there ever been a referral that we accepted into the program that was employed?
One or two.
So probably 99 out of 100, right? So there's been a lot of loss of productivity in our community. A lot of unemployed folks, right? And we are losing this productivity to drugs, okay? That's one. One of the hardest things we see in drug courts or treatment courts is them not having a home, or homelessness, or not having stable housing, right? What else? Hope Recovery Center, do we see a lot? Problems with transportation even, right? So they can't make it to their appointments, they can't make it to their treatment, they can't even make it to their court hearings because of transportation issue. And maybe another one is the criminal justice costs, right? And how we have to address the problems because of these drug issues. A strain in healthcare. But 99 out of 100 again of our participants that come in have never seen a doctor in years, have never seen a dentist, okay? So in order for us to stabilize them, they need to get their general health checked, and also oral health, right? Maybe not for us here, but nationally, a big problem with overdoses, right? Especially with fentanyl opioids, okay? However, we are leaning forward, and I just wanted to mention that mental health court, drug court, we are a sentinel site because we do thousands of drug tests a year, and in our drug panel, we are looking for fentanyl. So we are leaning forward so that when we do spot it, we will alert the CHCC, their program there, right? So aside from overdoses, we look at health complications because of drug use. It's a strain on public safety, right? I mean, we have the data, at least we have that data. You know, we see that there's been a trend of a rise in property crimes, right? We look at drugs and family violence, right? So the thing is that I just wanted to mention, me, Eddie, as a drug court manager, we do not accept violent offenders. We don't accept sex offenders nor domestic violence cases, okay? Why? Because that is not the type of treatment the treatment court provides. So I am very interested in the epidemiology of why these three happens, because we are pretty in tune to what's happening with, let's say those who are trafficking, just selling their drugs for their own for use, right? Those who commit property crimes, XYZ. So I hope that with the talk that we will be seeing later, that can be elaborated. Okay. Drugs and the drug problem is a problem for our future. Okay? That's why we have the Youth Congress here. Right? Okay? What is happening to our children? What is happening? I'm not answering that question. Hopefully we will answer that in the future. Not the distant future, the immediate future. Okay. But that's what worries me. But I'm not going to elaborate on this because PSS will be providing a talk, and I believe they might be presenting YRBS data to discuss this, the drug problem, right? But it's very serious. Okay. So why are we here today? We want to initiate the conversation, like Justice McGrone mentioned during his opening remarks. Okay. Why the judiciary? Why is the judiciary initiating this conversation? Why not? Just like why are we initiating EQ? Why is judiciary spreading awareness of EQ? The answer is why not? Why not us, right? Okay. But it's not only that. We need some follow through. So after today, we need action. So hopefully, we can come together and get that data, make a report, so that we, in future summits, in future one of your meetings, we can present this. But data is important. Why? Statistics is important. Why? Because we need to establish a baseline. Because we cannot define a problem if we do not know what the baseline is. Anecdotally, we know, we see the problems. I don't need to prove to you if somebody jumps into the swimming pool and they're drowning, like, are they drowning? Of course, you jump in and save them. Wait. It's only drowning if there are 3 people and they're drowning. You have to immediately. Yes, okay. I've been warned that I'm out of time. So, speaking of data, yeah. With the power of Google, I went to the CDC and there's this report called the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. I believe that's what it's called. The data is a little bit dated, as the earliest ones were from 2018, I believe. But what this number means, okay, 59.7 per thousand, or let's just say 60 per thousand. So they surveyed adults, okay, in the United States, and they discovered that about 60 per thousand adults have used methamphetamine in their lifetime. All right? 6.6 per thousand means that these are adults that have used methamphetamine in the past year. Okay? So when you look in this room, about 6 of us probably use methamphetamine in the past year if we're going to extrapolate. Right? Okay? Now, 4.5 per thousand. CNMI numbers. That means 4.5 out of 1,000 adults in the CNMI have used methamphetamine in their lifetime. So it's over 10 times less than the US number. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. No, it's not. It is not. Yeah, it is not. Because if the denominator is the adults in the CNMI, you know what I use as the numerator? Drug court participants. These are only drug court participants. Right? So that 4.5 is just the tip of the iceberg. So what I hope we achieve in the summit And the follow-through is to figure out what's the deal. That is the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz, for your presentation. Before our next set of presentations, we'll take a 10-minute break. So please be back at your seats by 9:38.
welcome back from the break. We will now begin with our law enforcement presentations. The first set of presentations will focus on illegal drugs, the occurrence and distribution of illegal drugs. We have representatives from the CNMI Customs Biosecurity, Department of Corrections, Department of Public Safety, and the Office of the Attorney General. Please welcome Colonel James D. Alvarado from the CNMI Customs Biosecurity to give his presentation.
Good morning, everybody. I know just about half of the people in this room have been around the government that long, so as you can see, I'm just about ready to retire. Anyways, question, do we have a drug problem? I think we do. I honestly do. Otherwise, more than half of us will be out of the job by now, right? It is a serious problem. And here in the CNMI, a lot has happened over the past decade or so, and thankfully, and I commend the courts for finally, fighting through and making sure that we finally have a drug court here in the CNMI. After so many years of talking about it, we finally have it. Please give yourselves, everybody that's involved in this effort, please join me in giving ourselves a round of applause. Okay, so I'm at Customs now, and I want to talk to you about some of the things that we're doing at Customs, and also to offer some perspective of how we can potentially fix the problem long term. There's a lot of moving parts to this, but if we stay focused and we stay committed, I'm fairly confident that together we could, achieve it. Okay, next slide. Our mission at Customs is, of course, to facilitate trade and travel by ensuring efficient processing at ports of entry, collecting of revenue through the enforcement of excise tax laws on imported goods, and identifying and seizing prohibited contraband items being brought into the CNMI, which of course includes drugs. Okay, so the three core values of the division focuses on professionalism, integrity, and vigilance. Next slide. Okay, the drugs of choice. And this is based on our participation in the CNMI Interagency Financial Crimes and Drug Enforcement Task Force. We have quite a bunch of our officers that are assigned to the task force, and this is where we're actually, and also in terms of the type of drugs that are flowing or that are making their way to our ports of entry. As it stands right now, still a vast majority of them are crystal methamphetamine, and with people that were actually apprehended through the efforts of our customs enforcement team, we still can fairly confidently say that the most popular drug in the CNMI is still crystal methamphetamine. However, we're starting to see an upward trend in cocaine, the use of cocaine. For some reason, a lot of the younger, a lot of the teens and young adults seem to prefer cocaine over crystal meth. But this particular occurs though when they're having parties as opposed to having it as a casual general use. And then of course we have had problems with the importation of ecstasy. We don't see that happening, or we don't see much of that actually, or any of that actually been coming through our ports. But nonetheless, that's something that we've encountered in the past. And then the last but not the least is cannabis. Now, we have had a number of interception of cannabis seeds that have been sent through the mail, as well as edibles and dabs. Does anybody know what dabs is? Kind of like a liquid thing that you put into almost like a pipe and then you inhale it. So that's what dabs is. Okay? So that those are we see a lot of this coming through or coming to the post office. They've been coming through the post office, but at the same time, guys, I want to share this with everyone here in this room. You're not allowed to import cannabis through the mail. It's illegal. You can't do it. So if these things come through any of our ports of entry, we're going to confiscate them and we're going to destroy them eventually. Okay? If the Attorney General's office will be willing to prosecute, then we'd have it prosecuted. But nonetheless, at the end of the day, we're going to have to take possession of them and have it destroyed again. Next slide. And these are just some of the examples of drugs that we've actually intercepted. Parts of the methods, of course, has been by putting them through lava lamps. If you see that photo on the far right, what they did is they liquefied crystal meth and put it inside something that looks like a lava lamp. Next. Of course, these are the edibles that I'm talking about. The one on the left, then the one on the right are THC. Cannabis. Next slide. Okay, so these are the struggling methods that I shared with you earlier. For crystal meth, or some of the things that we actually encountered. They liquefied crystal meth and put it into the tube, lava lamp tube. Air compressor canister. Man, these guys are quite creative because it looks like the original canister. They actually cut the compressor canister in half and re-welded it back and they tried to paint it and make it look like the original. But after using some of our tools, we were able to determine that the meth was inside. Another way of doing it is by putting it inside a baby milk powder. It's a canister, and then they basically dug up the milk and they put it in between the. But of course, if somebody were to, it's kind of odd when somebody tries to bring in baby milk and there's no baby involved, amongst the passengers. And of course, another instance that we encountered is they actually wrapped crystal meth inside a carbon paper, and then they put it in between Christmas cards. There are quite a lot of Christmas cards, especially when it's, the season is not nowhere near close to being Christmas. So the thing here is that we're still trying to figure out if those carbon papers actually have an effect on the X-rays that we're using. Why did they put it inside a carbon paper? No one seems to be able to answer that. Okay, and next. Okay, amongst the tools that we're using at the ports of entry, I can't discuss all of the tools that we have, primarily because we don't want to compromise operational security. But these are really more the general tools that we have at our ports of entries. We have an X-ray machine. We have some X-ray machines. One permanently installed machine up at the airport, as well as the seaport. And we also have a portable X-ray machine that can be brought to other places, such as the post office, or if let's say there's a major fishing derby that's happening and we need to use X-ray machine over at Smadico, then we might be able to deploy that. Okay? And then we have a TrueNarc equipment. The TrueNarc equipment is really more of like a chemical analyzing equipment. So if we are able to, let's say, open something up in a package, it looks suspicious, then we can pretty much use the TrueNarc to be able to determine as to whether or not that particular substance has, some form of prohibited components in it. Okay, put it that way. And then, of course, there's two regular drug test kits that are used as additional verification if need be, and then finally we have to bring it before a lab to actually confirm everything. Okay, and we have a fiber optic scope. What this is basically, it's like a really tiny camera that we could actually insert into small holes or packages or containers to determine what's inside there. Okay, and of course, canine detector dogs. Yes. Okay, this is what a mini G is. Or rather, I did discuss about mini G, but we also have mini G. And with the mini G equipment, it's also a chemical analyzing equipment. So what happens is, let's say we take out, we find something powderish inside a container, then we can put it in front of that glass portion there, and then the tablet, which was placed in between it, will actually tell us the reading. Did I say it? Am I correct on that? Or anyways, so the tablet is supposed to give us the reading, and then next. That's an example of the X-ray. I'm sure a lot of us have seen this probably, and a lot of you guys have seen this at the airport. Next. Of course, Guru Josie on duty at the airport. Next. Okay, this is just some photos on how we do inspections. We do inspections. We do commit ourselves to quite a number of inspectors when we get flights coming in from areas that we consider to be high-risk jurisdictions. Okay, so what's the solution from our perspective as an agency? We have been in communications right now with our inner agency financial crimes and drug enforcement task force partners, or otherwise known as the ETF. And in our discussions, one of the things that we would like to see changes made on the current configuration of the drug enforcement task force is to establish a council comprised of the different heads of law enforcement to be able to do quarterly evaluations of performances, as well as discuss policy-related issues to improve the overall drug enforcement effort. But part of the things that we also would like to see is we need to evaluate if there is an existing, if the amount of people that are currently assigned to the drug task force is really sufficient to be able to fight and prosecute the drug one, or rather drug cases. We believe that this warrants a new way of, or this would be a helpful approach to fixing or addressing the drug problem of the, okay? And in the process, we'll be appointing a drug commander who report directly to the council, as well as, when I say autonomy from other work assignments, we need these guys to do nothing but focus on drug investigation specifically and not be handling any other cases but drug cases. Like we need a robust, focus group to just go after these drug smugglers. And we got to make sure that any and all cases that are coming in from reactive sources, so this is somebody reporting incidents to the police, we want to make sure that those things are filtered in correctly, and also going to the drug enforcement task force if, let's say, somebody were to be arrested after being pulled over by the police. So we want to make sure that all of those different pieces of putting successful drug cases together have actually been taken care of by the drug task force. And to establish a hotline. We think that it's time now to have a drug hotline for the drug task force. I know that we do have the Crime Stoppers hotline, but the one problem that that we see with the Crime Stoppers is this thing about you need not give your information, you need not give your name, or we want your name, we want your information, not your name. Now, if somebody wants to give their name and their information, I'd like to be able to get that. Okay? Nothing against the Crime Stoppers. They're doing a tremendous job in terms of helping out law enforcement. But if somebody wants to voluntarily come forward and provide information and tell everything that happened, I want that. Okay? Next. Okay, we need a new war on ICE. Okay? This is something that we strongly feel as an agency at Customs and Biosecurity. Okay? We need to be able to streamline the whole processes that are currently occurring that will kind of bring the different components together. I know, for example, like we have existing programs from the Oceania Customs Organization as well as the Pacific Island Chief of Police that actually support intelligence sharing initiatives as well as provide training for officers that are assigned to these intelligence programs. But at the same time also, they could also provide critical information to law enforcement agencies that are pursuing offenders. Now, one key disadvantage that we have here in the CNMI is that unlike the continental United States, where, it's it's much easier to communicate with other law enforcement agencies because we're kind of in the same country here where it sometimes becomes a problem because we're surrounded by a bunch of foreign nations aside from Guam. So there's a lot of disadvantage, and there's a lot of issues that we sometimes come across with when they don't really the folks that make decisions down in DC or wherever they come from, or even in LA for that matter, sometimes don't quite understand the challenges, the unique challenges that we're faced here as a jurisdiction. So I think that we think that one of the things that we can do, that we can really exploit right now, are those intelligence sharing partnerships that we have with both OCO and PICP to be able to not just train our officers to become better intelligence gatherers, but also at the same time, they do have initiatives that can allow that will assist us in tracking known offenders that escape jurisdiction. Okay, so there are times, for example, where we know that, let's say, there is this foreign national that has committed a crime. Here in the cinema have taken a flight and have gone to, say, Thailand. They do have the capacity to be able to track where this person has gone and find out where that person is. Okay? So that's what I mean by leveraging resources. And this is pretty much permitted because of our participation in both the OCO and the PICP program. Okay? And clamp down on drug traffickers and locations where drugs are shipped from. We get a lot of drugs coming in from the post office, and I want to be just plainly honest about this. We need help. It's way too expensive for the CNMI to be expected to go after the sources of these drugs. We know, and this is well-established fact, that a lot of drugs have been shipped into the CNMI from California. We can't afford to send an agent out to California. Okay? We can't. We just are not there financially to be able to support this. So we need our DEA partners to convince those folks down in Los Angeles that even though a pound of crystal meth may not matter in LA, it sure as hell creates significant problems when those things come to the CNMI. Okay? So the value of 1 pound of crystal meth in Los Angeles may not matter, but when it gets here, it becomes a big problem. So it's really more of making sure that they understand that our priorities may not necessarily align with their priorities. And we've been providing a lot of assistance for them over the years. They really do need to go after the source there, because we can lock up all of the people that they're shipping the drugs to, but as long as nobody is doing anything to stop the source, it's never going to stop. Okay, of course, we would also like, as an agency, to see a more aggressive pursuit of our forfeiture laws here in the CNMI. I mean, we need to start seizing property at the local level. We can't just rely on the federal government to be able to be doing this for us, because not all cases they will take. And if we want to maximize the impact, we most definitely need to look at where we're at, public policy-wise and law enforcement, prosecution-wise, when it comes to going after asset forfeiture at the local level. And of course, strict monitoring of enforcement of court conditions. Again, I'm going to be honest about this. When individuals are put on parole or probation, it is very important that parole and probation strictly monitors those conditions. It is much easier for you guys, it is far easier for you guys to bring these people in than it is for our case, in our case. And they're already on court conditions. Okay? We can't afford to have them get away with things. Otherwise, those things will not matter. And the reason why this is important, guys, is because I had a personal experience, and I want to share this with you guys. I actually contacted the probation office to report a person who's, in my view, violating a court condition or conditions of his probation. But I was told that probation doesn't open after 4:30 and on weekends. Now that sends a very negative message to the community for as far as I am concerned. So I do want to share this with you, and this is not to cast blame on any particular agency, but since we're here talking about problems and how to fix it, perhaps it warrants better focus on what we need to do to accommodate the ability of not just law enforcement, but everybody else to be able to do their jobs more efficiently. Next, please. All right, but I think I've got a message back there that my time has already elapsed, so I'm just going to try to run this thing down real quickly. Regional collaboration. we like Guam as it stands right now is one of the high risk jurisdiction when it comes down to not just drugs coming into the CNMI, but a whole bunch of other stuff, guys. Invasive species and biosecurity matters is another, but of course that's not the focus of this presentation. We need to get our leaders together. We need to get public policy individuals as well as the administration on board to be able to fix this problem. Okay, so if we can treat the drug problem as a regional problem as opposed to a CNMI and Guam only problem, I honestly believe that we can do a lot of good. We can do a lot of good if we work closely together and collaboratively together and cut through the red bureaucratic tapes of being able to share not just information, but as well as being able to share resources to tackle this problem long term. Because there's no other closer jurisdiction nearby other than just the Guam and the CNMI have been separated politically. Okay? And of course, the other things that we need to come with that is cross-designation authority, intelligence sharing initiatives, and review of current border control policies on both ends and how to make improvements. Next. Supporting resources. And now, again, I'm going to throw this out in the room because I see this happen every single year when the CJPA Supervisory Council gets together and they decide to disperse funds. And then I see the Justice Assistance Grant funds get caught up into like 20 or 30 different pieces. If you're to give me if I'm asking you for $35,000, and you give me $10,000, that's only gonna do so much for what I'm asking you for, and there are times when it actually does not make any sense at all, right? If I ask you for $10,000, you give me $1,000, what am I gonna do with the $1,000? So we need to really look at the impact that these grant funds are actually doing to the projects that we're investing in. So Justice Assistance Grant funds, I think, honestly, should all go to the Drug Task Force. And if you don't want to make it all go to the Drug Task Force, maybe make it all go to the CJIS, which is another worthwhile project. Okay? Otherwise, it's going it's enough already that it's so little. Let's find one project that maybe we can dump it on to create the most impact for the CNMI. Okay? The other thing here is I want to talk a little bit about our CQ funding. What it is that it is a revolving account that's current for the the Division of Customs and Biosecurity, where we're able to charge fees to airlines, vessels, and whoever else when they bring import items or come to the CNMI for their services. Okay? Right now, this thing is quickly ding down, and they're taking it away. This particular funding has helped our division be able to not just self-sustain its operations for the past 5 years, but it has also allowed us to develop new capacities so that we can do a better job in protecting our borders. It is counterproductive when we have these things established and then they get taken away from the agency because of our current financial conditions. This thing has been quickly dwindling down for the past 2 years, guys. And it's quite frustrating when we see it get spent for purposes outside of what its intended purpose. What good does it do to allow an agency to have the capacity to develop the revolving accounts when eventually, whenever they want policymakers they feel that they should take it away, they just take it away and apply it to something else. Okay? It has helped us self-sustain ourselves for the past 5 years, and it will help us self-sustain ourselves for the next 15 years if they just leave it alone. Okay? And then of course, asset forfeiture. We really do need both the AG and our federal partners to go heavy on this. Let's hold these drug dealers accountable. Next. There's some statistics here. We want to share, as you can see, there are the numbers. Is Mike here? Mike, you want to explain the stats?
Good morning, everybody. This is just the stats for FY23 to 2025 for marijuana, THC crystals, edibles, and methamphetamine. Overall, for FY23 to 25, marijuana was seized about 2.89 pounds, THC crystals at 1 pound, THC edibles at 88.4 gross grams, methamphetamine approximately 10.5 pounds over the last 3 years. For cocaine powder, we haven't had any seizures throughout our ports. Just a quick information for the marijuana, THC, and crystals and edibles for FY 2024. I know we say zero, but we do work closely with our partners with AG, with Chief Chester Hines, and also our federal partners. It's more of, we do still seize through the ports, but it's just a administrative level. It doesn't warrant, we get our advice from Chester. It's not a warrant for us to actually build a case file or pursue. So FY 2024 is basically just an educational period throughout the ports. If we do seize, we just not always prosecute, but to teach as well. That's for the stats for FY 23 to 25. Thank you.
Okay, next. Okay, thank you everyone. Any questions? I know I went way past my time, but I apologize. I tried to keep it short. But sometimes when you're up here and the thing, you know that you develop your thoughts, you wanna let it out, right? And I you know, since I know a lot of you know of the people in here, worked with many of you guys throughout the years, I feel it was important. It is important that when we do these type of things, we be honest to ourselves. We really do want to be helped. We have to be honest and talk to one another about the challenges that we're faced with. Oh, any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
Are we in the CNMI, are we doing something different than Guam in terms of fentanyl? I know we haven't seen it, but again, we talk about we're very close to Guam.
I'm not sure if I'd be the right person, actually, quite honestly, to answer that question. But for our purposes, when it comes to inspection, we really don't want fentanyl to get here. Okay? We have been, some of our officers have already been certified as trainers as well to try to provide some kind of aid should, let's say, somebody come in contact with that substance up at the airport. But other than trying the best we can to get them from, prevent them from entering our borders, I really don't know if there's any other change or unique way of trying to prevent that from coming, or in terms of doing something different. I would guess that we're probably doing a lot of things similarly with one another, but it's just a matter of you know, the different individual agencies on where they're at. on the implementation process of making sure that we're ready when it gets here.
I can add in addition to that. We know that whatever Guam or illegal drugs that Guam has, definitely, and we are very, strict or monitoring the drugs that Guam has. And fentanyl is already in Guam. Our worry is that it would overspill to the CNMI. We are very close to Guam. It's only a boat ride from Guam to Rota, so it is a tough task. It's not something that we're going to let our guards down. It's something that we are strictly monitoring. We have 2 boats that we will plan to use for a random patrol. It's not cheap, but whatever it takes to protect our good citizens of the CNMI, we will use it to ensure that our borders, the CNMI borders is very big. Saipan team and 15 islands. Guam was only 1. And Guam is high risk for us, for not only drugs, but invasive species as well. So we're not letting our guards down. We will maximize whatever resources we have, from officers to whatever equipment that we have, to ensure that our islands is protected from any threat, especially with the illicit drugs, especially with fentanyl also.
I'm actually glad that you brought up the overspill. That was one of the things that I wanted to talk about earlier, but I forgot. But I'm glad that the return brought that up, because that is a chief problem that we have here now, guys. We need, and that's why this is so important that we treat this as a regional problem, as opposed to us in the CNMI, us all doing different things, because we're just so close to each other. There's talks right now about having a ferry service run from Pagan all the way down to Guam. How much of a risk would that pose to anything that's been brought between the islands? And it's good economically, and it's good for allowing our residents to be able to have another access to travel, right? But at the same time, these are things that we're constantly worried about. And outside of Guam and the CNMI, everyone else is so far away, and this interlink between our 2 jurisdictions is just, it's just really, really too close for us to ignore it as something that should be treated as a regional problem.
I just have maybe a question. First of all, thank you, Director Mapanas, Customs and Biosecurity, for the hard work you're doing for the Commonwealth. So we're always talking about importation, right, for drugs. I was sitting with the governor of the food, and asked me what are my thoughts about the drug abuse in the Commonwealth. And I know there's a lot of drugs locally, but I'm curious of production also. Are we monitoring some of those chemicals? Because, as we know, meth, the biggest challenge to meth is a chemical compound that's put together, right? So are we looking at also importation of some of these chemicals that might be produced locally? So we have to be diligent, and also as we approach the war on ice, I know many of these are being imported, but I'm just curious, if there is any local production being done locally and distributed.
Thank you for that question. We work closely with other law enforcement, federal and local, and any precursors. I know at one point in time we had an alert from one of the pharmacy here about certain chemical that has been, several people were coming in and out, and then through the investigation I found that this was just one group that they're trying to cook up crystal meth. And so with that information, I know there were several arrests made. So in terms of having, again, based on the drug task force, with the DEA, HSI, there's not, in their, based on the information, there's none that it's been cooked or here in the CNMI. Again, it's tough. I'm not gonna say there's zero ice on the island. I know as long as there's a demand, the supply is going to be coming in, and it's unfortunately based on the main drug dealers are called from another foreign country. That's the intel, and I'm glad that the guy that was just sentenced to 25 years in prison, that guy was involved on the Lava lands, and maybe other cases. But that was one of the big cases. Now again, to the question of being made here on island, if there is, we're not aware of, but we know that in our, I guess, observation, there's none cooked, but imported into the CNMI from the USA.
Great, thank you for that very stimulating presentation. Okay, so one last question. After this question, please write on the post-it and then we'll put it on the parking lot. Thank you.
One question I had, hearing the results of a lot of these activities in the end, when someone is ready to intercept it. One that I have not seen yet in the past 14 years of the district court is drugs confiscated through body cavities. But I've seen those in cases of Guam, and they've been happening. So I'm wondering if it's one of those means again, do you have the means to even detect it? And then second, I was curious about the device about the x-rays, because again, hearing about how these activities can occur, can you find methamphetamine, say, in any type of tanks, like scuba diving tanks? Would you be able to detect it if they were coming in through there? So those are just a couple of the endpoint questions, and I was hoping that your agency is prepared to do so, or if not, I guess one of those requests for resources to get it.
Thank you, Judge Maloney. First is the body cavity. I know before we've been finding drugs through body cavity, both female and male. Now with the other, Colonel Guerrero mentioned about the air compressor. We found that through, sometimes when something like that, like the air compressor comes in from China, why are you bringing this stuff here? We know it's repainted. We know it's available here, freight is high. So the two officers that took the time to look into that discovered, I think, about 23 pounds of meth in there. As scuba tanks, I know we have the X-ray machines that we run those stuff in. Those that are hard for us, especially with metal containers, we have the X-ray machines to run it through. We have equipment and all this stuff. I think the greatest, the most now used is through the parcel, like the carriers, FedEx, UPS, but those are all, they come to the airport. So we have officers. We have like about 4 officers, or maybe 8, whenever those cargoes come in for consigned to those UPS or FedEx. We have officers stationed at the freight area, digging to those using our Mini Z K9. So, but again, I know that, at least I told my officers, listen, there's drugs on the island, but at least we tried our best. Use every resources, blood, sweat, and tears, go in there, open up, and what? Anything slips through the crack, at least we tried our best. It's a huge task, but again, as I said earlier, we're not going to let our guards down. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Mafnas and your officers for all their hard work. I just want to note, this is a call to action summit, and I just wanted to assure you that we are, your comments about probation and all the other stuff for proactive action are duly noted. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Colonel and Director. At this time, I would like to call on Captain Sablon, Officers Eva and Officer Javier to do their presentation.
Morning, guys.
Morning.
Before I begin, let me introduce myself. My name is Joaquin Saban. I'm a corrections captain at Department of Corrections. And to my right, we have Javier, Sarah. She is our RSET counselor. And to her is Carmen Eva. She is our RSET lead. Guys, just excuse me, I'm kind of nervous. So, first presentation for the UC, so instead of prepping, I told myself I'm going to wing it, and hopefully I can do a good job at it. Okay? So, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Herman. Okay. So what do we do to prevent drugs from entering our facility? You know, I wish, guys, I wish I can stand here and say DOC is drug-free. I really wish, but we're not. Even with DOC and the community, we are still struggling with the pandemic of drugs entering our facility. But that doesn't mean that we're just staying idle and not doing anything about it. We do have a lot of prevention or stuff that we do. So first is to pat down on all incoming and outgoing officers. Okay. We do our pat down on officers, regardless if we're law enforcement, we do check our guys. Even if we want to trust them 110%, we just have to do our due diligence. Okay. Next, random shakedown. Random shakedown is basically our slatting of going into a room, strip searching all the inmates, and searching every inch of the cell. Every inch. From their books, to their beds, to the light, to the intercom, to everything. We don't have any fancy machines to go in and x-ray the room and find drugs. No, we don't. It's a hard work. Very hard work. Next, random cell search. It's almost similar to a shakedown, but this is just basically like a routine for our officers to go in there and just see if everything's in order. Check beds, check the inmates, pat them down, stuff like that. Strip search on all incoming arrestees and inmate workers. So every time DPS brings in an arrestee, we would strip search them. I mean, I would love to give you guys details, but you guys understand the concept of strip search, okay? Thorough search of incoming properties and mails. I mean, hearing from C. Director Guerrero, or Chief Colonel Guerrero, sorry, that they're having problems with Christmas mail, so probably we're going to up our inspection and actually inspect more postcards, mails, and stuff like that. Next. And with the help of Drug Card, and the team, they actually help DOC in becoming certified in doing drug tests. Thank you, Judge Thurskin, for allowing us to be part of the Drug Card team, and also Judge Lilia for introducing mental health into DOC. So that's really, really great. So we do drug tests on inmates and staff. But, you know, honestly, guys, I mean, there's a lot of ways that drugs can enter our facility, and one of it is through staffs, okay? Through officers, corrupted officers. And I'm not going to stand here and say it's all the inmates' problem. It's from officers, from inmates, workers, and stuff like that. So just remember, inmates are in our facility 24/7. 24/7. 24/7, so 24/7 they have all that time to study the weak point of our operations. So every day we just have to get smarter than the inmates. We study, we do group talks, we try to come up with solutions. Okay? Next. So this is just a sample picture. So background is basically female and female. Next. And regardless who you are, even if you're a commissioner, and sorry if you're like a judge or the governor, and if you come to our facility, we're patting you down. If you're coming in unannounced. Okay? And what are we doing to locate drugs in the facility? Same thing. We do shakedowns, we do cell search, inmate observation. So every day we tell our officers, go around, do your routine check. Eventually, a person who's high on meth will not be sleeping at night, right? A person who's always moody, then later start jumping around the day road. Inmate observation. We also get intels from inmates. We don't share those information because once an inmate knows that this inmate is talking, then that inmate will be put on protective custody. So we try our very best to work like a system where an inmate can share information to the staff so we can locate drugs in our facility. Drug testing. We drug test, and if we find that an inmate is positive in that cell or that section, then we go and do our shakedown and stuff like that. Then also with the customs, with their canine assistants and DPS, they come over once in a while to assist with the canine to locate drugs in our facility. And I think the next slide is just things that were found within DOC. I mean, we're not just looking for drugs. We're also looking for weapons. We're also looking for misdemeanor drugs, but these are the stuff that's found in the Department of Correction over the past decade. Okay, so as you can see, that's everything in prison. Next. We have cell phones, we have snuff, we even have inmates. I don't know if they're doing business, but they have a scale. Okay? You know, selling ice might be, what, I don't know, $20 out here, but in prison that can go up to $1,000. They charge for it. I mean, I know this because I've been there for like 20 years, so if you're gonna ask me how an inmate think, I can think like an inmate. Like, seriously, like, I know every angle, every tricks, every things that an inmate's thinking, but do I stop learning? No, I continue to try and understand the movements. Because right now, some of you are here, inmates can come here and just do some kind of body language and already disseminate one paragraph in just a second. Okay? So with that, you know, we're not just identifying inmates with substance abuse disorder, so we eventually launched a new residential substance abuse treatment, RSAT. And I'm gonna have Officer Iba to actually briefly explain to you what RSAT is.
Hi everyone, thank you, Cap. So we're glad to share that DOC is re-established the RSAT program, which stands for Residential Substance Abuse Treatment Program. So what is RSAT? RSAT is we bring in residents or participants that is 6 to 12 months prior to release. We bring them into our programs and we have them go through classes that teaches them coping skills. And part of it is evidence-based treatment services, rehabilitation service, behavior monitoring, and periodic drug testing. Our goals and objectives. Okay, I'm sorry. That is usually my problem in DOC. I'm always asked, how can I work there in a correctional facility with a soft voice? So one of our goals is to really establish residential substance abuse within DOC and continue it. You know, we don't just house our inmates, and we don't lock, we don't lock them away and throw the keys. But now we want to, and now we are glad to have this program so we can help them before they reintegrate back into the community. So DOC is helping our people. Part of it too is this program is spearheaded with myself, the RSEP program lead, our counselor, and our program coordinator, who's not here, which is Jason Camacho. We also have 6 correctional officers that will be working closely with us, and we as a team will be helping our participants get the necessary class and skills they need before they exit into the community. I'll go ahead now and give the mic over to our counselor. She will share with you the services that we offer.
Good morning, everyone. You guys can see me, right? Okay, so my name is Maria Sara Javier. I'm the RSAT counselor. And before I start, I want to acknowledge my mentor, Taan Kabua Dumaman of CGC. I wouldn't be standing here in front of you guys. So as you can see, I was part of CGC 2015, 2021, and I built myself up with the help of Ms. Taan Kabua Dumaman. So I'm giving back to the community because I see my purpose. I see why I'm here. As a correction officer, and then as a counselor at CGC, transferred to correction, I see the need. I see that our people needs help, the underserved population. And through our program, I go back to counseling. And like I said, I want to thank Ms. Taan for mentoring me, for giving me that hope that I almost lost before. So that's why I'm here right now in front of you. And of course, going back to our program, we do screening, intake screening, biopsychosocial assessment, substance abuse evaluation and screening. I know RSAT, they only do like 3, in Guam and other states, they only do 3 screenings. But us, we want to do full scale. We want to give them, we want to provide them what we need. And also, we're providing individual and group psychotherapy. We're providing matrix and MAT, which is medication-assisted treatment. So it's really neat for our participants. Psychoeducational group, anger management class, and 8-dimensional wellness. On 8-dimensional wellness, we really incorporate the spirituality and physical. So we want to give them all the information that they need so they can be prepared when they get released. And recovery self-help group, cultural, recreational wellness, and a meeting with Mr. Jack Sablan will help us with that. And of course, we're also targeting the short-term serving sentence, those 3 months, 2 months, DUI serving sentence. What is the main problem in the CNMI? Also, it's alcohol, right? So how many DUIs in a month? So we want to target that as well. It's not just the methamphetamine, marijuana, but alcohol. That's our goal. So I'm getting nervous. So that's it for us. So these are the people that help us for our SAT program.
Okay guys, that was a very short presentation. I know nobody has any questions, right? So I thank you very much for having me, and is there any question?
Are there any questions at this time? Okay, we have one.
question? All right, so this is about the RSAT program. I saw you're using Matrix and so forth and help assisting with the treatment aspect of it. But as far as readiness, when they're ready to be released, are you helping them build resumes, practice interview skills? What are you doing about the fact that right when you open the door and they walk out, that they're going to be hungry in the next 4 hours? Are they preparing their food stamp applications, their Medicaid applications? What are we doing about those immediate needs right when they come out?
Yes, we're providing that as well. We have a program coordinator, Jason Camacho, collaborating with SAR program and other agency, labor. So we're preparing them, like you said, we also preparing them with their food stamp application, Medicaid, everything that they need to transition to the community. And aftercare program, which is very, very important after the treatment. That's why we always grateful for our collaborating agency, SAR and CGC. Because right after the treatment, what's next for them? Aftercare is very important. NA meeting, getting back to their health, nutrition, NMC, getting their GED. So we're working, our program coordinator is working closely with outside agency to help with that. Even if they're under probation, right? So when they're under probation, what's next after the treatment? So we had a meeting with probation office as well, so they can help us.
Just to add in with the Medicaid, so that's one of the hurdles that we're trying to accomplish. Because we are in the talks with Medicaid to try and get them some kind of special insurance within DOC where they'll cover the cost if they get admitted over 24 hours. But then we have to apply. And one of the requirements for Medicaid is a birth certificate and a social security card. And we try to elaborate that when criminals commit crime, they don't have their birth certificate on them or their social security card. It's basically committing crimes. They don't have nothing on them, not even ID. So even with us trying to reach out to family members, these are people that are like rejected from families. So it's really hard. So when we do reach out, it's like, we're trying to help someone, tell them to go rotting there. Tell them we want nothing or nothing from her. So those are the challenges. So Medicaid's underway, and hopefully we can find a way to jump that hurdle over and get it covered.
All right, one other question. So it's no secret because you are part of the staffing team for drug court, and so you know that I always express frustration during the hearing when I sanction someone to go to jail and the participant says, Your Honor, I can get meth as easily as in DOC as I can outside, right? And I know that I've asked you, how can we stop that? And you were very forthcoming today about the fact that there are drugs in DOC. And then I saw the list of ways that you tried to prevent drugs from coming in, pat down of officers and all of these other things. And you also mentioned that you've been working at DOC for 20 years or so, and so you can think like an inmate, and you talked about how they could just look across the room and look at somebody and make some kind of gestures, and it's a whole paragraph of a message that's been delivered. And so I guess my question is, when inmates use the phone, are those conversations recorded? Is someone monitoring them? And when we say, and when inmates are released are taken out of DOC, whether it's to clean, the trustees I think is what they're called, or when they're being taken to the hospital, what assurances do you have that when they're taken out of prison and then brought back for that short period of time, that they're not collecting drugs on the way out or while they're out?
So the short answer is a strip search. Anybody going out, coming back in is a strip search. What was the other question? I'm sorry.
I mean, when they're on the phone, or when they're are sending messages to people. Hey, I'm coming out. I'm going to be cleaning. I'm going to the hospital. Plant some drugs for me. I'll pick it up. Tell me how to get it. Where to get it.
Okay. So just recently we implemented a new robust security system. Like it has every angle in every building in the facility. So technically, wherever you're looking at, the camera will actually detect you. And it also, I think we're having like a facial recognition software where you can identify who's walking in and out and stuff like that. With the phone, it is being monitored. So if we have intel that, they're saying, oh, can you deliver McDonald's to results of, McDonald's is like a key word for drugs, so it is being monitored and being checked.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
For the RSAT program, what is the eligibility for the inmates to be able to participate in the program? Do they have to be U.S. citizens, or is it just their time out? Like, to come back, and my other question was, let's just answer that one first.
You wanna take that?
So it's 6 to 12 months prior to release. That's one of the populations that we target. And if they're pre-trials, if their charges are drug related, they do fall under that criteria. And also it has to be non-violent. So it does get screened through CAPS Sablon's office classification. Then they come over to our set, and that's when we start our initial intake and screening. I'm sorry. Not violent, yes. Violence are not eligible. Though, we do try to find solutions. Those questions are brought up. We try to find solutions to try and assist them in another way. We really try not to leave anyone out, but we do bring those discussions up to the table to our upper management and see how best we can assist them.
I think the question was, is citizenship criteria?
So citizenships, no, I don't think so. Unless they're under, if they have a detainer under ICE, then we don't take them in, only because they will be getting deported. But anyone under federal charge or local charge, yes. And if they fit under that criteria. Yes, if they're federally charged and it's drug related and it's under that criteria, then yes, they do come into the program. Screened by CAPS 1. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank the DOC team, the RSAT team. We had an opportunity to go to and see the RSAT program at in-house. So that's a really good program for those that may qualify coming up. So for the past 2 years, I've been working with the Commissioner Torres. Just so for information, we developed the outreach program to also work with the DOC. So we developed the STAR program, which is the acronym Substance Treatment and Rehabilitation. So that's the aftercare program. What we're finding that's a big gap in the community, I know from the justice system, program, and then over DOC, probations and parole. There's such a big gap and a need in the community to have an aftercare. So we're currently building that program. So as they go through the door program and they are facing out to the community, we will catch them at the back end and continue that process and monitor. So currently we're working with Medicaid. There's a system that we will develop, and we're on that system as they roll out in June to collect data. And that will help us together collect data and our success and our failures in the program, and we can correct it as we go. But the STAR program is, it really is a program to help those that are coming out from incarceration and be integrated in the community. With the STAR with outreach, we have a few pillars. One of them is career driven also. So one of our major partners, we're in the same office in Chanacanoa, and that's been a very successful program for us. So I'm grateful for and I want to thank the Commissioner for allowing us to work with you all, and congratulations with the DOOR program for establishing that, because that's going to be our key. Hopefully we can have more success for those coming up and do the low-haul work of the long-term rehabilitation. Thank you.
Thank you. One last question.
My question, you answered it as far as eligible federal detainees. My guess is that you may have more
demand, then you have the ability to provide the services. So with that, my question is it all voluntary, or do you, is it court order, and if you prioritize based on that?
It's a volunteer base. We don't force inmates into treatment. We go and assess and we ask if they want to continue for treatment. If they refuse, then we don't force them.
And what about the supply and demand? Are you running into more people interested and are available to provide services, or is everybody allowed if they express interest?
As of now, we have 28 eligible participants for our RSEP program, and we have 17 pending assessment. We're not overwhelmed with our data. We're actually doing one day at a time. You know, eligibility, we want to make sure we screen them. If they refuse, like I said, we cannot force treatment to everybody. So it starts with acceptance. So if this participant is not ready for a change, we give this individual time. That's why we have 12-month period. We have recovery is lifetime. So that's why we do it one day at a time with our participants. So if this time they're not ready, maybe next year they will be ready if they're serving 2 to 3 years. So we give them time. Yes, and our RSEP program is capable of doing it with the support of our commissioner. So we're also, by this year, we're going to be hiring more counselors as well. And of course, we want to acknowledge the support of our, Judge KT and our agencies, especially CGC and SAR program. It's good help for us that they're on our support, because like we have 6 RSEP officers, right? They don't know anything about addiction, but because CGC is there to train them, they understand. We understand what's the problem. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Captain Sablon, and your team for